Welcome, everyone. Got another episode today. I got my friend Brandon on the podcast. How are you doing today, Brandon?
I'm doing good, Robin. Thanks for inviting me onto this. Really
Of
excited to talk
course,
about some
of
things and
course,
maybe
of
get to know
course.
you more.
I was trying to think about when we first met and how I'm thinking back. It must have been at one of the tournaments or something. We kind of stood next to each other or something, or I don't remember anything beyond that.
I
Is that
actually,
your?
I actually thought our first time meeting was at an open mat at Concept. I met you there, and then I saw you at like a Triple Crown sometime last year. And it was through that open mat where I was like, "Hey, I remember rolling with you. You complimented me on like the small man jujitsu because I'm also a small man. So, you know, um, that's how I remember our first
Ah,
interaction going. And then, of course, meeting at the local tournaments here and there has always been a pleasure. So,
yeah, very nice. All right, let's start off. Introduce yourself,
mhm.
where you train, and your rank.
Yeah. My name is Brandon Perez. I am originally from Guam, but I moved to Hawaii about like 2008. I was in seventh grade. And so from then till now, I've pretty much been raised in Ewa Beach. I train at United BJJ and I'm currently a blue belt. So very
Yeah.
happy. Mm.
Okay. Classic question I always ask. Why did you get started?
I, you know, I've been through several seasons of trying to get back in shape or stick to like my martial arts background. So I grew up wrestling and wrestling in intermediate through high school and a little bit of college kind of stuck with me. And then I had a 4 year lapse of like, I wanted to try other things. I was powerlifting for a little bit. And, that went really well. I tried it, put on a lot of weight. And then, Dylan and Tristan, which you might not know is we're family. They're my cousins. So
Ah,
grew up wrestling with them, grew up doing all of that. And when I saw Tristan and Dylan get into jujitsu, you know, just thought like, man, I can't get left behind. Like we kind of grew up in this and they're starting this other discipline. And I was inspired by how far they came and how they were able to apply like their wrestling and transfer over that to jujitsu. So I guess, I was filling a void really, you know, wrestling, grappling, martial arts has always been a part of me. And I feel like I ventured into other little hobbies and little activities, but it's always brought me back to it. And to me, it's probably been the most rewarding. You hear everybody say it's really good for like your mental health and staying in shape, but I truly, truly believe in that. So yeah,
so you mentioned you started off wrestling in intermediate school. Was that
yeah,
was that here in Hawaii or was that back in
yeah. It
Guam?
was at ʻIlima Intermediate. Yeah, I was here in Hawaii.
Mm.
Yeah, to rewind it even more. I remember growing up in Guam and, my dad had his own like academy and I was too young to really understand it. It wasn't exactly jujitsu. It was like Aikido, Judo, Kempo, and karate. So it's like, you know, he, he was a big instructor in the martial artist world, back in Guam. And then when we left, because, he was in the military too. So we traveled a bunch when I was younger and then we finally settled down here in Hawaii. And that's when I really picked up wrestling. And growing up, I kind of just had the normal childhood, playing with like Pokemon cards, going outside, getting along with my siblings, but I never really got into wrestling until about, seventh, eighth grade, intermediate. And, I kick myself because it's like I've fallen so deeply in love with jujitsu right now. And I'm turning 31. And if I had just not rejected it, and not fought against my dad, when I was younger, who knows, but that's where I'm at right now, and I'm still loving every part of it.
So you had early influences of martial arts through your dad then.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was like first exposed to it through my dad. Um, but again, it just wasn't my thing. I just didn't really find interest in it at the time when I was super young. I was more, I would say I was kind of rebellious to a lot of things, just always getting into trouble, always getting into scraps with like my cousins and stuff, always just being a rotten kid, but, I don't know. I just kind of found my way into wrestling because, I knew of Dylan and Tristan, and then I had some other high school friends that also signed up at the same time. And again, it was like that FOMO, like, oh, you guys are going to do that. I kind of know what it's like. So maybe I'll try it too. And, when I came home to tell my dad about it, he was really excited. And then, year after year of me getting more and more involved with wrestling, we got closer in that way. So just thankful it happened rather than not at all, really.
Yeah. So you start off in middle school.
hmm
Was it hard? I mean, do you find it very challenging?
Yeah, I thought it was really challenging. I thought the conditioning was really hard, and the head coach of ʻIlima Intermediate's wrestling team is Coach Wida, Brian Wida. He's still in my life today, and we can talk a little bit more about his influence on myself and tribe, and maybe a little bit about little more stories on Brian. But my first introduction to like wrestling practice was real heavy on like conditioning. Like what you can do with your body, how you can be able to control your body through certain movements. Some of these kids I would do, or I had my first practice with, never did a cartwheel before. They never knew how to break fall. They never knew stuff like that. And when they did it for the first time, it was really challenging because it hurts. Like if you do a real good break fall and you're like never did it before, you might conk your head, or you might, it might be unpleasant. So it was challenging at first, but because of the kind of crew I was with, the kind of friends, it was like, you're all in or you're not, you got to keep up. So I was thankful to have friends that were like, put your nose to the grindstone and just work, don't be a wuss, don't turn back now. So
Mm, mm. Yeah, because I mean, looking back on it, right? So say you weren't surrounded by those types of friends. I mean, is it possible that you just said, it's not for me. It's kind of hard.
definitely, definitely would have been possible because like I said, I mean, I was exposed to it very early, didn't want to do it. And I'm sure my younger self thought like, I still don't know if I want to do it, but, I just took the chance and I just stopped limiting myself really. And I kind of had those realizations pretty early in middle school. And then when I started winning some matches, at like the intermediate level, I was like, okay, I might actually have a good run at this. And this might actually be winning's fun. Losing sucked, but that's part of the game too. Yeah.
Okay, so the coach that you spoke of, was he started you at you were with him at intermediate? Did it
Mm-hmm.
also continue to high school, or you took a
Also in the
little
high,
different path?
no,
You have high school.
also at the high school. Yeah. So,
Wow.
um, Campbell's head coach at the time when I was in high school was Mark Bulow, and it was Brian Wida. It was them two. That little era of Campbell wrestling was tough. We learned a lot of great, valuable lessons about discipline and hard work and what wrestling really is and how it can help you on and off the mats. But yeah, Wida, you know, has been really influential to me at a young age, all the way up to now. And Wida actually came with us to Mount Everest Base Camp back in 2022. So to have a intermediate wrestling coach stay in your life all the way through your adult years up until later in life when we take him to somewhere like Mount Everest. I mean, you don't hear that often, and I'm so grateful that he trusted in us and we trusted in him, and we looked at him as like a great role model for what men should be and what how to conduct yourself in wrestling and whatnot. So him and Bueller both together. I got to give credit where credit's due. So, hmm.
I talk a lot about that, especially because I'm older, right? Of being a positive role model or being a positive influence to younger kids, helping to shape them. And I guess for you, kind of went full circle, right? He helped you in youth, and I mean, then you took him out to the base camp. That's a pretty amazing story.
It is amazing, and again, it's like you just don't hear that often, and I'm very grateful that it happened in my life. And if one day I meet some kid and I teach him wrestling, he'll take me to, I don't know, Africa to do Kilimanjaro or something. Who knows? I don't know, but he was kind to me, and I really took that in very early on. There was one tournament where I think it was like just a small local tournament, and I think the match started off on our feet, and then the guy I was going against hit a duck under, got behind, got a tight waist, and then kind of like slammed me on my shoulder and my head, and I was out. Like I pretty much was like, it was a gnarly injury, like a concussion, and I was super like in the dumps after that, and having everybody, all the eyes on you. It's kind of like being put to sleep at a tournament, and then you think everybody's watching you, but really nobody is really paying too much attention to it. But
Right.
yeah, I was just in a dark place after that match, and Vida had pulled me to the side. We took a nice long walk and just helped me get my bearings together. Really helped me grow through that kind of pain because I was feeling real doubt about like should I keep wrestling because I was super scared about a head injury.
Mm,
Concussions and
mm.
brain injuries are just they're nothing to take lightly. And I was a kid, I was in high school, 16, 17, and I didn't want to take that chance. And he really talked me through the pros and cons of it and helped me out of that little dark moment. But I'll never forget like that conversation we had and how that still influences my decision making today, and getting through hard things.
That's something you bring up that's interesting to me, right? And something that I see a lot too, right? Where younger athletes, right? I mean, they're kind of not kids, but they're not adults yet, right? And they're in a delicate state, right? As you were after you got injured. But having somebody, a mentor or a figure that a person that you trust, help you process that situation or help step you through it. I mean, that's invaluable for that person, that child, that near adult to help them to your point about their future self, right? I mean, that one point could be turning for them where a bad, their bad injury could have just turned into, I'm just going to go into my shell. I'm going to withdraw. I don't want to be
Yeah.
participating in anything. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We need those, young men, young girls too. We all need positive and influential role models, especially through the hard times. You can't do anything alone like that. And that's just one example of how I experienced it. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So you wrestled to intermediate, you wrestled to high school.
Hmm.
Uh, does wrestling continue after high school?
A little bit into college. Yeah. Um, During my wrestling years at Campbell, um, I chose Oregon State as the college I wanted to attend. And I walked on to the wrestling team there. And my first introduction to that level of wrestling was just unreal. It was unreal. Like the conditioning, the everything was it like exploded. Like what you think is the ceiling is now the floor. You know what I mean? Of like where your skill is at. And I won a state championship at my senior year of high school, and everybody in the room had at least 3 and 4 state titles, and I only had one. There wasn't one person on that team that didn't have a state title. And that was really eye opening to see the kind of levels that's out there. And I got dog walked. Not gonna lie, like my first practice, I cried. It was like just a young boy in a man's world now, and just had to stick to it, stick to my guns, and just use some things to my advantage. But I was a small fry going into my first year of college wrestling. I wrestled at 108 all high school. So, that was I was super light. And the lowest weight class in the NCAA was 125. So I was super light coming in. I was just kind of like the runt of the crew and just had to earn my stripes there. Yeah.
Do you think, like, I see it in jiu-jitsu where, we have a smaller competition circuit, so we don't get as much exposure to other athletes, and we kind of see the same people over and over again. You think it's something similar in wrestling where, like, in high school, you know, on the island, you have set amount of wrestlers, you go in your meets and with other schools versus like maybe someplace on the mainland, they have exposure to a lot more
hmm
competitions, seeing
hmm
different people makes them.
Yeah. It's similar. I think the local competition scene in jiu-jitsu is similar to how it was, at least when I was experiencing it in the wrestling. When I was in high school, it was only up until maybe like my junior year or sophomore, junior year where I got to leave the island to go and attend wrestling camps somewhere else. That's kind of like how I first, I guess, got inspired to go to Oregon State. Was there was a wrestling camp in Oregon, and I had a group of friends, and kind of like they brought us out there. We just got different exposures, but I wouldn't say we're limited here, but um, you only know what you know. And it's like, I think once you leave the island to see what the level of competition is like out there, then you'll kind of see it for yourself, really. Um, but there's so much talent and there's so much hard workers just in our islands alone. Hawaii is on the map. We've always been on the map. We've always produced tough wrestlers and judokas and top jujitsu athletes. It's just hard when we're on an island in the middle of an ocean. Like the IBJJF thing. Like that was my first time doing the Open, and coincidentally, it was the first time they were back in Hawaii in like 15 plus years. So yeah, we don't have really. I don't know what it's like now, but we don't really have big tournaments like that in Hawaii for wrestling too. At least when I was, yeah.
Okay, so you walk on Oregon State. Like you said, you probably need to put on some more weight, some more muscle
hmm
to
hmm
even reach the lowest weight bracket.
Yeah.
Um, what happens that first year on the team?
Well, I stuck it out. I continued this season and just attended every small event that they had. Um, but I didn't really think I could do it all 4 years, so I stopped after 1 year, and then that's where I filled that void with like powerlifting and lifting weights and stuff. I was trying to put my energy into other activities that also brought me joy, and yeah, honestly I couldn't keep up. Those dudes were next level. I don't have any shame in saying that. Like that was like um inspiring me, but also like, I think I'll sit this one out. I think
Mm.
yeah.
Did you, even though I mean, like, of course, like you said, you didn't go beyond the first year, but did you kind of feel a sense of at least a slight accomplishment that you hung in there for that year, you pushed through, even though,
hmm
I mean, the odds are definitely stacked against you.
Yeah, those moments of adversity don't leave you. They kind of follow you throughout your life, and even now, I'm still so very confident in my wrestling that I'm thankful for that period. And anybody that has been in that position that I was once in can probably say the same thing. Like it's like muscle memory. Like you might need to, shake off the rust a little bit, but those hard moments carry through, I think, the rest of your grappling career, because there's nothing like wrestling. There's just nothing like the type of conditioning that's required of it. Um, and yeah, Yep. So just I'm still really happy and proud of my little short stint there at the Division 1 level. So can't complain.
Okay, so next phase is lifting and powerlifting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That was a very awesome, interesting period. I like to just full send it into things when I'm in it. Um, my best numbers for the squat, bench, and deadlift was my bench was 305. I squatted 500 and I deadlifted 600. So being like 145 at the time, I take a lot of pride in that. It wasn't easy getting those numbers, and I did it with good coaches at the time. His name was Jaron Demane. He runs the powerlifting gym out in Kakako, Ukio or something. So, you know, training around guys that do that like full time, kind of you rise with them too. So I was very happy to put up those numbers at the time. And yeah, I did that for like 3 or 4 years. And then that's when I kind of fell back in love with the wrestling and the jujitsu. So yeah,
did the powerlifting phase come to the point where you thought about doing competitions, or did you do competitions?
I did. I did local competitions. I did one like powerlifting meet in Vegas, kind of like the national powerlifting meet. Um, but I tried the competition scene here and there. It was exciting, it was fun, it was different. Yeah. But yeah, it was just a little phase of life. I liked to lift weights.
Okay.
Hmm.
I'm sure you still lift weights now, but in a different
In
fashion.
a different
Not
way,
to
in a way that now is like how to make my jujitsu more robust, or like how to, I don't know, still keep and maintain strength while managing your weight. It's like it's a dance really right now, trying to not overexert myself on weightlifting. There's no way powerlifting and maybe jujitsu can mesh, or at least I'm not good at it. But
mm,
like there are some days where I'll be like really consistent with lifting 3 times a week, and also training jujitsu almost 4 to 5 times a week, and I'm blown by Saturday. Like by Saturday, I don't even call me up to do anything because I'm fried.
that's
So
that's a
it's
lot.
a dance,
Yeah,
I
that's
gotta
a
kind
lot.
of one's got to give somewhere, but yeah, it's possible. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now powerlifting phase is passed through. Now you're back to jujitsu. You're gonna go to your jujitsu journey. Right. So these where do you start off at when you jump into jujitsu?
Where do I
Or what
start?
school? Hey, what
Oh,
school did you go to?
oh yeah, I started at United. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I just kind of saw their gym on Instagram. I was working and I was like on my lunch break, and I just saw like an ad or like something on Instagram, like, oh, come check us out. They're in YPO, which wasn't too far from where I was working at the time. And I already knew where Dylan was training. He was somewhere in town, and I was like, oh, I would love to train with him, but just because of that, evening traffic, wasn't gonna commit myself to going all the way to town for jujitsu. And you know, found myself at United with Bruno and Angela. I started in 2023, so just about 3 years now. And my first class there, I decided, it was going to be no gi because I had no idea what to do in the gi. I had no idea about anything grips related and all of that. So I just stuck to my guns and just went the no gi route and just tried not to, um, yeah, just try not to make a fool of myself my first day doing jujitsu. But it turned out to be really fun environment there, and just stayed there since. Yeah.
So with the extensive wrestling background, I know that there's some things that cross over and then some things that probably are like maybe I don't say bad habits, but some things that you might want to avoid, right? So
Yeah.
what's the mindset as you start to do no-gi jujitsu, and how do you try to balance off trying to learn jujitsu and then apply the wrestling techniques that you already know?
Well, when I first started doing jujitsu, I would shoot a lot of like double legs and high crotches from like the outside, not in the clinch, not trying to set up an underhook or anything. I was very confident in like my blast doubles and stuff and my single legs. Um, but then I get wrapped up in a guillotine and I would be like super confused because like, okay, we got to the ground. I technically took you down, yet I'm here tapping in the first like 5 seconds of getting to the ground. So that was a big learning curve and understanding where pace fits in to the picture there because jujitsu and having a high pace, it depends really because I love keeping a high pace too, but
Nice.
also try to do it in a way that's not going to open up my neck for an attack, like a ghillie or something. So, um, and there was like a short while there during my like white belt year was like doing takedowns in the gi too. I wasn't a big guard puller. I like to play guard now, but like then it was a big you know head scratcher to try and figure out. And still was getting caught in loop chokes and all that. So I was like, hey, something's not working. The wrestling and jujitsu is pretty different. I think it's pretty different. It's like a bit more like high. You might be working in the clinch here and there. You might get a uchimata throw here. Or, I don't know. It's different. So you got to kind of adjust, really. Yeah.
So how long did it take for you to jump into the gi world?
It took a good year, to be honest with you, and that's where I really decided to go all in with jujitsu was to learn both sides because I was doing only like 2 days a week. And that was because that's all that no gi was Tuesday and Thursday, and maybe a Saturday open mat. And where I was working when I was first starting in jujitsu, I was all in with work. And I could only commit to 2 days a week because I thought at the time my work was more important than my rest and my extracurriculars. And so when I got canned from that job and it opened up my whole schedule to do more things and rediscover myself. And I started adding in the gi classes because I needed to get my mind off of not working at the time. So I was doing no gi and then I started doing gi and it didn't really take too long to get the swing of things, but I'm still learning right now. I still get pieced up everywhere I go.
So now if you have to weigh which one you prefer, do you have a preference between the two?
I still really love no gi, but this year has been real gi focused, and that was a goal I made last year. Was that I'm going to be competing in World Masters in 2 weeks, and I my first master tournament, you know, so I thought it was something to work toward, and it's gi only for World Masters, so I decided to sign up for all the local ones, Triple Crown, Grappling Industries, all that, and get more comfortable in the gi this year. So I think I'm doing it. So yeah, I would say
Nice.
no gi still is a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Mm.
I think like from my perspective, right, if I have to weigh the two, no gi is definitely more high intensity, like more it can be more explosive. Whereas with the gi, there's a lot of grabbing and holding and slowing down. Like I like the gi because I can slow people down. If
Hmm.
I'm in no gi, I can't really slow people down. Like there's no like grab the sleeve and hold this position. So I
I
don't have
I
that.
I am I'm loving the gi too in that way because I feel like my gi jujitsu and my no gi jujitsu are two totally different Brandons in a weird way. Like in the gi, I love to experiment more on like lasso and spider and try to get just different ways to control a person is I'm finding to be pretty fun right now. And in nogi, when you get a I don't know, like let's say like you get a good K guard and you throw your like leg over and then you're in a crab ride and then you guys just start like moving quickly. I find that fun too. That little scrambles of jujitsu. Um, So each are serving their purpose to make me really happy. So I like that.
It's good that you have the love for both. Not that I don't love no gi, I just prefer gi.
Yeah, I hear that. No, totally. I might get
All
there
right.
too.
So let's talk about your competition history. Like you mentioned, you do
Mhm.
a lot of local tournaments. I always ask people if they remember their first competition and what it was like.
Yeah, my first Naga tournament, I signed up. Okay, dude, I used to be 185 in this frame. Like I was
Oh,
pretty husky when I first started jujitsu, and that was the big like, uh, what the f are you doing at this weight? Because I was like, stressed out. I was working a lot. I wasn't active. Again, jiu-jitsu was my only activity twice a week. So I was still eating poorly and drinking and whatnot, not making healthy habit choices. But when I did my first tournament, I was 185, and I think that's like welterweight. I don't know, middleweight, but there are some big broadas in the 185, and I'm like 5'3" on a good day. And I remember, and of course, it was in the white belt division. It was novice or whatever the lowest in the nogi was for Naga. But I had to fight, scratch, and claw for whatever win I could pick up, and I was winning, but that was again with very little jiu-jitsu experience. Just take down, stay on top, and try not to give up your back, and just maybe ride out the clock. I don't know. I didn't have I didn't have a strategy back then too, but my first tournament, I just did nogi and I had maybe like 3 or 4 matches. Can't really remember, maybe two, but I just remember it being really difficult going against larger guys. So kind of was like, you know what, let's try get back down to like 140. Maybe that would be good, and that's what I did in a year's time. I made it a goal to get myself right again. I was in a season of just not really doing much, and now I'm doing a lot to keep myself healthy again and make sure that jujitsu stays as an activity that brings me joy instead of it being a way to just fight against the number on the scale. Like I never want to see
mm,
myself balloon up again like that. But um, yeah, that's how my first tournament was.
wow.
Why?
That's pretty good, man. You went from 185 to like 140s. That's a significant change in your
Mhm.
clothes size. I mean, your food bill, like the mindset, everything. That's
Yeah, yeah, and like again, those were like habits I picked up from like powerlifting. Man, you just didn't care. You just wanted to put numbers on the barbell, and shoot, it might have been an advantage to have been heavy set. So it is what it is. I'm just happy to be here now, where I'm at.
do you, I always ask people that compete, do you enjoy competing?
I love it. I love it because it's like I don't know. It's like when you're in the bullpen and like got all your nerves there, and it's like when you're like about to get called up to the mat, there's like that feeling of like you got to trust yourself to just go. Like all the work's been done. If you've been honest with like how you're preparing, and if you've been honest with like how your mindset is leading up to a competition, things can work out in your favor. And if they don't, that's just back to the drawing board. I mean, what
Right.
can you do? I love competing. I can see myself still competing for as long as I live, even if it's in anything. I could compete in like mahjong next week or something. I like to play mahjong now, so I don't know. It's like a competitive nature in me to just try to like find something new and see if there's a competitive scene for it and try see where I stand. Because I look at it like benchmarks and like my progression. Like, okay, maybe where can I stack up in a sea full of blue belts? Like there's blue belts that may have just gotten theirs, and then there's the other side of blue belts that have been blue belts for like 2+ years or whatever, right? So I try to use it competition to kind of see where I fit, and I, you do get better after competing. I think progressively, you do see what you need to work on, and that's also something I like to get involved with is watching footage that's something my dad used to have me do all the time, was watch footage of my old wrestling tournaments and see what I did wrong and just don't let it happen again. And he always was recording my matches. He was always there, always giving me critique on what to do, what I did right, what I did wrong. So I think that's still with me in how I like see competitions. So, and it's fun. At least now it's light. It feels like the pressure's lightened a bit because the jiu-jitsu community is so awesome that you can win and lose. That like, dude, nobody cares. Just get better and just be a nice person, and that's all that it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
What do you think your competitive spirit comes from? Like what built it into you?
But I'd say from my dad. My dad made me and my brother Tristan very competitive against each other. When I got my first state title, Tristan was in 7th or 8th grade, and it's like kind of grooming him to be the next state placer or state champion. And Tristan ended up winning 2 state titles for Campbell his sophomore and senior year. You know, and that competitiveness between me and him, and just kind of like stop making excuses of like why things didn't go your way. Because wrestling and jujitsu, you're out there by yourself. You're out there relying on the work you put in prior. You have a team. Of course, it's a team sport too, but uh, it was really me versus me, and that still carries into now. That's where my competitive spirit kind of came from. Was from my dad.
Very cool. So let's talk about a couple recent competitions, right? So you did Honolulu Open.
Mhm.
So how did that go?
It was great. I took first in Master One, featherweight, blue. Thought that was really cool. I think I had 2 matches, so took first on that. That was great. And then I did the Open. Um, I lost 1 match by points. So yeah, funny enough, that guy is also in my bracket for World Masters. So if we meet up again, I'm hoping to maybe get a win off of that. So yeah.
Is oh okay, so that was you did gi at Honolulu Open and of course at Masters it's gonna be gi.
Yeah.
You know how many
Yeah.
you know
Just
how many you know how many people are in your bracket at Masters?
and Master Worlds is last I checked yesterday or the day before was 42 guys. I think yesterday they cut off the registration, so it might just be at 42. Let's say 44, maybe.
That's a
Right?
that's
Isn't that kind
that's
of
a lot.
that's kind of odd, right? I was like,
That's
where
a
are you
lot.
guys at? 40 something for hey, let's get it. Right on.
That's awesome, bro. I think two
I
years
think
I
that's
competed
like 6 matches to win, no? Like 5 or 6 matches to win
five or
first.
six yeah, 5 or 6 matches. So yeah,
Plenty
can
guys.
do okay, so I saw you at Fight to Win.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that match, how that went for you.
Shout out to Leo for giving me an opportunity to get on the stage again. Um, it was a good match. It was mostly wrestling. I didn't feel like well, I felt like he didn't engage as much with me. I had such different expectations for how the match was going to go in my head. Um, he was just kind of standing straight up, taking the blast doubles, um, not necessarily wanting to do jujitsu. So I still came out with the win, but it was I had to process that. I was watching the footage again. I was like, didn't feel real to me. So again, different expectation of what I thought it would be. But yeah, it was fun nonetheless. That was my third fight to win appearance, and
Hmm.
uh, just happy to still be doing it. On a stage like that.
Do you have a preference on whether you like to do something like Fight to Win versus like Naga or Masters?
No, no, no preference really. As long as I'm out there accepting a match and just being comfortable with whatever the outcome would be. Yeah, but no, there's no preference. I like the big stack tournaments because it feels like there's more on the line. But when you're on a stage like and a lot of people are watching you. It's just 1v1. Like that can be like also kind of exciting too. There's a different thrill in that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. Do you prepare differently in any way for different type of match rule set, that type
Mhm.
of thing?
Well, for Fight to Win, it was announced at the Honolulu Open. So, uh, coming off of like, I also did the Asia Open too in Japan. And then a week later, did the Honolulu Open. So I was pretty gi focused, not playing too much in the no gi world really. But when I threw my name in for Fight to Win and I got a match, kind of like the training at the gym was more like submission only, always look for something. Um, Leg attacks were always in the game too. Start looking at my rounds differently, looking for different openings, creating different openings. Because in the, IBJJF, you can't like do certain things. I'm only limited to certain things per the
Right.
rule set. So depends on what kind of competition I'm getting myself into is how I alter my training. But I've been very consistent this year with how my training has been. So I just had to trust that the work's been done, and there's nothing new to add to your game if you're competing next week. So
Right.
really
Right.
start dialing the strategy, and that's what Bruno has been really helpful with in those phases too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can say I saw you at Fight to Win, and you look good. Your wrestling was good, on point. To your point, I don't want to say that some people are doing anti-jiu-jitsu, but kind of like where they don't want to engage, right? And it's like I don't say they're afraid. I don't even know what it is, but
I
I see a
don't.
lot of times where they just kind of they're not engaging. Like it's jiu-jitsu. How are you going to sub me if we don't have exchanges, right? I mean, that's just part of it. But I
Yeah,
saw
I
a lot
remember.
of that
I
that
remember
night.
the ref too was like, "It's sub only, gentlemen. It's sub only. Guys, got to do something." And I'm like, "I'm trying to do something, but it's hard to do something to someone also not letting you work. It's a
Right.
weird feeling. Yeah, but it exists.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, could
But
see,
thank you for
could
that.
see your,
Yeah.
could see. Yeah, you look good. Your wrestling was on point. I was like, oh, you must have took him down 2 or 3 times, and
Hmm.
he didn't really have an answer for it. I was like you said, he just kind of stood there. But you got your hand raised at the end. That's all that matters, I guess.
Yeah, and Leo's a nice guy. We took a picture after, kind of talked story. He's more of like a MMA guy. So again, that's where my expectation was coming from. Was like I thought we was gonna stand and wrestle and get scrappy. Um, but nice guy. And that's what I like about these tournaments too, is that at the end result, it's just people
Yeah.
being that kind to one another. So,
What do you think to this point of your jujitsu journey has been your biggest challenge?
mm, well, mm, probably be accepting like positions that you're not comfortable in and trying to work your way out of it. Like I I have that competitive spirit in me. So like I try not to give up positions even during like a sparring rounds. But then I know in order to get better and excel in my jujitsu, I have to put myself in those triangles or arm bars and try and figure out a way, or maybe get myself in a really heavy north south and I'm on bottom and I have to problem solve from there. That's still something I'm continuously working on, like a little bit more intentional with my sparring, just finding myself in a bad position, but not thinking of it like, oh, shucks, what did I do wrong? Like, oh, shame on me for that. But instead of just being like, okay, this is presenting me a new problem here and I can't figure it out. So now I'm going to have to go home and figure out how to, or ask my coach, like, how do I get out of this? And I think that's how I'm going to get better. But, I think that was probably the biggest challenge really,
Mm,
is having that kind of mindset.
I think that's a common
Mhm.
thing for
Mhm.
people that are starting or beginning earlier on, not understanding that it's okay for someone to pass your guard. It's okay for someone to take your back. I mean, how else are you going to learn how to fight out of
Exactly.
it, right? If you're
Yep.
never
Yep.
there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Because
But
then
it
it's gonna show, right? I had these thoughts after first couple tournaments. I've had my losses this year, I've had my wins and whatnot, but it's gonna show what you're not um, comfortable in. I didn't really like playing top, and a guy has a lasso guard on me, and it showed that I didn't know how to get out of it because
mm.
I'm not putting myself in those positions to really work the escape or work like a pass or something. So yeah, it'll show.
Where do you where do you want your jujitsu journey to take you?
Wow. I would love. Are you familiar with what we do with Tribe? You kind of see the open mats and stuff. Like jujitsu, I hope could take me around the world, and that's a big passion project of Dylan's too. That when we started Tribe, we kind of were just hanging out, bunch of friends, going on hikes and doing little side missions here and there, bringing people together. And then we got into ultra marathon running, and then we got into the Everest Base Camp trekking, and now we're in jujitsu. And I think with what we're doing in jujitsu now, credit to Dylan and how far he's brought Tribe, in the jujitsu world. Right, there's a lot of visibility on what is happening right now with like the Coco Head Jiu-Jitsu and the sponsorships and partnerships that is happening behind the scenes. But um, just seeing how very enriching to me on the inside. I'd love for jujitsu to stay in my life, and I pray every day to just come out uninjured and have it be like my rock. Something I can always escape to because the mats will never leave. They never did. It proved it hasn't left me. I went off and did some other things. I left. I lost myself. Got super out of shape, but the mats were back right where they were, and I just had to. God just put me back on that path, and I hope that my jujitsu journey will still treat me in that way and take me around the world one day, because that's kind of like my big motivation right now, not just with Tribe, but like with my jujitsu is not forgetting why I started it in the first place, you know, get back to my
Yeah,
roots,
yeah,
grappling.
I really like what Dylan and the tribe and what you guys are doing with that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think we kind of parallel in the way that we're just trying to make the community smaller, bring people together. You know, I think
Yeah,
that's
it's like Tribe's like philosophy. It's not, the brand isn't the product, the brand is like how people feel when they're part of it. We want people in Tribe to feel connected. We want them to feel welcomed and encouraged and to know that they're capable of doing more. And there's just something about it. We want people to know that they have people behind them and, we all rise together. Really. That's what's more important to me right now. And jujitsu is like the vessel right now. It's kind of like helping me find all these new relationships and new experiences. And I hope it still continues to serve me in that way, you know? Mm.
all right. To close this out, I want you to give your best parting shot to someone that's out there, maybe struggling through different situations or out of jujitsu or even thinking about jujitsu. Some words of wisdom or something that you can share with them.
Mm, words of encouragement would be to accept that there are seasons in your life that you may not always feel, or like you may think you need to do a lot all the time. And there are sometimes seasons where there's nothing going on or things aren't working for you, but be appreciative of the low seasons. Like I like to think of it like ebb and flow of life. It's like waves. Um, that the low seasons are like it's space for you to reflect. It's space for you to kind of ask yourself, like, is this thing that I'm chasing, or is this the thing that I'm working towards still aligning with my values right now, or like do I need the space during this low season to, observe more, you know, get find a new way to get creative again, or because with jujitsu, it's like always going to be there, and like if you consistently just grind, 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 burnout's real, and that's real in anything, work, relationships, hobbies, So just being appreciative of the when you're on, and when you're not, you're just not, and that it'll always pick up again at some point. Mhm.
All right, Brandon. Appreciate you sharing your
Thank you.
journey with us on our journey. And
Onward.
I'm going to wish you the best of luck when out there at Masters. I won't be there this year,
Oh,
but
you're not going to be?
I'm going to,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not going to be there, but I wish you the best of luck and go get them out there, man.
Thank you, Robin. Hopefully I see you on the mat sometime soon. Mhm.
For sure, brother. All right, Brandon, take care.
Thank you.
Okay, hang on.